Okay, as we move towards the second part of chapter one, which is looking into patterns using inductive reasoning and other strategies to solve word problems, we're going to see more into more patterns. And one of the fun activities to do, which you do have a um, like a model for use to cut out in your workbook. And you can create at least 5 levels, at least with disk, right, with circles, basically. And you can use it if you don't want to use an app. I have the app open. Most apps, the minimum that they come is with 3. And since one of the strategies that we're using to work this problem out is, besides looking for patterns, is actually make it simpler, right? So all of these are the strategies that they suggest you do it. Use a model, which it could be the app, right, or the physical thing. Make it simpler. So instead of having 64 disks, we're going to start with 3, for example. Make a table where we're going to record the minimum number of moves. And that's what I gave you, the table right here. You're going to record the minimum number of moves. Remember that this, even though I put it up there, I put it here, you also can write it over here. It says minimum. Right, minimum number of moves. And then I did a table from one disk all the way to 10. And the models, usually people play all the way to 5. And then once you have at least 5 entries, then you can look for patterns, right? What's the pattern? Can you write a rule? So what is happening in here? And then after that, like I mentioned down here, you want to be able to use Excel because it's really hard to do by hand. And the numbers are so big that a calculator cannot process it. Um, so again, so we are going to do like the first 3. Well, at least I do the first 3 with the app, and then you guys can do um, the other ones. I would suggest like you pause the video and then continue watching. So I'm using a model. I'm using this one. I'm going to use the first level that they have here, and and you can use also. There's an app online that you can use, so you don't have to download it in here. So let's assume we only have one disk. So the goal is to go from this needle or whatever this column all the way to the first one. So if you only have one disk, it's just one step, right? So you're going to put here one disk, and then you're going to put one step, right? One move, sorry. So we're going to put 1, 1, okay? And then let's do reset. And then if you have 2 disks, so let's assume the first 2, we're going to do 1, 2, 3. Because remember, you cannot put a bigger disk on top of a smaller disk. So that was 3 moves. 2 disks is 3 moves, okay? Now, remember that you can do more moves, but we're looking for the minimum number of moves, right? So we have 3. So now we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 is the minimum number of moves for 3 disks. Okay, 1, 3, and 7. Now at this point, right, you can go ahead and you can do it yourself, like put pause and then try to work out 4 and see if you can find the minimum number of moves. The thing is with this one, you kind of cheat because they do tell you on the top corner what is the number of moves. See, with 3, when we press, it tells you that the minimum number of moves is 7, right? So if you do play with 4, it's going to tell you that the minimum number of move is 15, right? So, but the goal is for you to try to do it to 15, right? So if we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So you see that you have 15 to be able to get, oh, hold on, I don't even have to get rid of this. You have 15 moves when you have a minimum of 15 move when you have 4 discs. So go from the left to the right, right? And then you can continue doing the same thing. Let me see right here. Like when you have 5, see again, if you cheat, it tells you 31 move with 5, right? So let me see if I remember all of these right here. Because the whole goal is basically to take the first 4 and put it here. And then be able to move this and then start working all over again, right? So let's take a look here. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then we are going to do 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Now, of course, remember that I have done this many, many times. And as you increase the number of discs, obviously more moves are going to happen, right? So we got 31. Okay. So from there, you are welcome to play. You're welcome to play with 6 discs and 7 discs. I have reached 7 discs. It has taken me a very long time to have the minimum number of moves. It's not easy. Okay. It's not easy because it's a lot of moves as you increase one level. Okay. So now it comes the second part. So we just used the first strategy. The first strategy is use a model. Okay. So we use the model. We also did make it simpler, right? So we use a model and make it simpler at the same time. And then we were collecting data on our table. And now comes the part of finding a pattern using these 5 right here. So we are going to look at what happens from the first one to the second one, right? It increased by 2. What happens from the second one to the third one? It increased by 4. What happens from the third one, from 3 to 4? It increased by 8. What happened from the 4 disc to 5 disc? It increased by 16, right? So what are we seeing here? We're seeing that it's taking the difference, the previous difference, and doubling it, right? Previous difference and doubling it. And so you can write that in there. But we can also see, so that means that for the next one, you will double 16, which will be 32, and then you add the 32 to the 31, and that's going to give you 63, right? And we continue with the process, right? We continue with the process until you finish the table. When you finish the table, you are going to have something like this. So by the time we get to 10, you are going to have 1,023 steps or moves, right? The minimum number of moves to be able to move 10 discs from one pile to the other pile. Now you see here, I did something here. So what we're saying right here is this right here. It says we multiply the previous difference, right? These are differences. We multiply the previous differences by 2, then we add to previous term, right? So take this, multiply it by 2, add it to previous term, and then you get the next term. So you need to explain, right? How is that you're doing? That's how you find the rule. Now I also went and did a little step ahead. So this is something that you can do with this process all the way to 10, maybe not to do the bigger ones, but all the way to 10, you can even use with 4th, 5th graders, right? Because they do know how to multiply and they do how, they do supposed to understand how to explain these, right? So this is something. Now, if you're teaching this to a higher level, right? So when they already know exponents and formulas, you can determine that this is going to be in the number of disk. And then as you see here, we can represent each one of those differences is a power of 2. So 2 is 2 to the first, 4 is 2 to the second, 8 is 2 to the third, 16 is 2 to the fourth, 32 to the fifth, right? All the way. So we're going to see that the pattern is, it will be, and then it's, you see 2 to the ninth, see, and then what is in, and it's the number of disk. So 2 to the ninth tells you how many disks you're going to add to that previous term to get the next one, right? So we have 2 to the n, and then the difference between 2 to the n, which is 2 to the ninth power, which is 512, instead of 511, basically you just need to subtract 1. So it's 2 to the ninth minus 1, or 2 to the eighth minus 1. See, 2 to the seventh minus 1. So you just need to subtract 1 to be able to find that number in that thing. So to find this one, it will be 2 to the 10th minus 1. So it will be 2 to the 10th, it will be 1,024, and then minus 1, it will be 1,023. So, and then as part of the fun parts right here at the bottom of the activity, it says, suppose that the priests move 1 disc every second without stopping. How long would it take them to move 10 disc, 30 disc, 50 disc, or 64 disc, right? Because remember, the original problem is 64 disc. So we are going to remember that to translate 1 move per second. So there are approximately, you're going to need this for the bigger ones, there are approximately 31,536,000 seconds in 1 year. Okay, so since we already know the number of move for 10, that's 1,023 seconds. So obviously we divide this by 60, so we know how many minutes. And then whatever remains, that is going to be the second. So this is approximately 17 minutes and 3 seconds. So if we apply this to 2 to the 30th, that's the last one you can do in a calculator, minus 1, that's going to give you 1,073,741,823 seconds, right? So this will be seconds, which approximately, like if you divide this number by this one, is approximately 34 years, roughly. These two you have to do with an Excel file. And when you do it with an Excel file, you're going to see that it is gigantic. Let me see if I have it in here to show you. It is, this is my Excel. So for 50, so these are millions, billions, trillions, quadrillions, right? So it's approximately 36 million years, right? So this is the number, 35, right? So that's approximately. And when is 64, all 64 disk, right? This is even more than 5 or 6, right, categories. So once you divide it by the number of seconds, it will turn out to be this number. So it will be approximately 585 billion years, right? So these are billions. So 85 billion, around 85 billion years. And at a certain point, because we are working with such big numbers, so the calculators or even the Excel, it will round up, like it will round. So you don't have exactly to the second, even though this one, they did a pretty good job for that one when they were doing division. But again, this is just an approximation. So as you see, it does take a lot of time, right? It takes a lot of time. And this is not something that you could do by hand. It's something that you're going to have to use in Excel, not even a calculator. So the biggest one that your students could do in a calculator, it will be 30. And then after that, 50 and 64, like I said, you're going to have to use Excel. Okay. So again, so you have the written rule verbally right here, what you need to do for find the pattern. This is what your students would do in elementary school, what they need to describe. The students in middle school can use the formula. Middle school and high school can use the formula, right? So to find the number of moles.